Alright guys, we need to talk about Lil Dicky. So Lil Dicky just released Penith, which is the soundtrack to the 3 seasons of his TV show, and it's the first album he's put out in forever. It has me thinking about his career as a whole. He has one of the strangest careers of any musician, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about just how weird it is. Because Lil Dicky popped on the scene for making some viral comedy songs, but it became quickly apparent that this guy had bigger aspirations. You would think, based on songs like Ex-Boyfriend, that he's a guy that doesn't take himself too seriously, but it turned out he takes himself very seriously. He keeps on churning out songs, he's on the grind on the internet, and he funds his debut album via Kickstarter, and we get Professional Rapper. Professional Rapper is his big statement to the world of what he considers himself as an artist. And he is someone that sees himself as a visionary, as a multifaceted, multi-talented dude who has a unique approach to hip hop. Because in one breath, he wants to be a comedian and he wants to make people laugh. And in the other breath, he wants to be taken seriously as a rapper. He has multiple lines in this album, in other songs, and he's done multiple interviews where he makes it clear that he wants to go down as one of the greats. He wants to be the next Kanye. He wants people to name their top 5 rappers, to make their hip-hop Rushmores, and Lil Dicky is right in there. And it's kind of funny, but also a little intriguing that the rapper behind Let Me Freak and Classic Male Pregame wants to go down as one of rap's greats. But Professional Rapper ends up being a really successful album, and this album is just full of Lil Dicky grasping to be taken seriously, to be put in the conversation at least. Like, at least hear this guy out and see what great things he could accomplish. And this album's popular enough that people are looking his way. So what is he going to do? What is the next thing he's going to come out with? And this is where things get interesting, because he has not released an album in 8.5 years. We just now got his second album, Penith, which is the soundtrack to his TV show. So it almost kind of technically doesn't feel like a follow-up album, even though it's the first body of musical work he's put out in 8.5 years. Now, Lil Dicky made it apparent in interview after interview that he didn't just want to be an artist, but he wanted to model his career after Will Smith. He wanted to do comedy, movies, TV, as well as music. And that makes sense for the kind of comedy stuff he does. Venturing into TV and film is a really smart move, and you could already see, based on how seriously he takes his music videos, that he's interested in expressing himself in that medium. So he's grinding and pitching and getting producers together and eventually sells his show to FXX. But in the meantime, his music career is taking a really strange turn. Because for somebody that wants to be taken seriously as a rapper and go down as one of the greats, he seems almost allergic to putting out rap music. He only did 4 features for other artists in this entire time span, and he released 2 singles, Freaky Friday and Earth. And I need to make it clear right now that I am not a Lil Dicky hater. We'll talk about it later, but as a filmmaker, I enjoy his show a lot. And he does have a good technical baseline skill as a rapper, which when he blends that with humor can have some good results. It's best showcased when he does his radio freestyles. I really think he has had some of the best sway freestyles of any of them. And to really drive home that I'm not just a blind Lil Dicky hater, I will admit publicly, I even enjoyed 1 or 2 songs off that Brain EP. That song he has about never having tried cocaine, and in the ad-libs, instead of saying cocaine, he just names random white people. That gave me a little chuckle. That made me laugh a little bit. But that being said, these 2 singles that came out after his debut, they were not it. For somebody that insists that he is not the Lonely Island, Freaky Friday is just like a mid SNL sketch at best. A sketch about him switching bodies with Chris Brown. It's stealing the concept of an existing movie. When you really boil the song down, it's just a song about how awesome Chris Brown is, which is not what we need. Not to mention there's no show of his technical abilities in this song. There's not a lot of creative punchlines or writing in his verses. And him just boiling down the entirety of why we hate Chris Brown to it's just his controversial past is a little disgusting. And then his single Earth, which is supposed to be a big climate change initiative, it's just I can't believe it exists because it's a whole song that's just celebrity cameos. It's just Justin Bieber going, I'm a gorilla, and then Ariana Grande's like, I'm a tiger, and then Lil Yachty's like, I'm an STD. And again, when Lil Dicky finally raps on it, it's one of the worst verses I've ever heard. Like, if this song is supposed to be the thing that raises awareness for the climate crisis, we're all gonna die. And so it's so weird that his debut album was him insisting that he was gonna be a serious rapper, that he might have jokes, but he himself is not a joke, and he's gonna go down as one of the greats, he's gonna change the game, and these are the two singles that he follows that project up with. And this is where things get really interesting because his TV show, Dave, gets picked up. It runs for 3 seasons, and honestly, it is a very good show. I think if you're a Lil Dicky hater, you're probably gonna have a hard time buying into it, but if you're a fan of the music, or even if you're just neutral to the music, there's a lot to appreciate about the show. The show actually does accomplish some of the things that the music has fallen short of, whereas it could be really comedic, and moments in the show are a lot funnier than a lot of the songs that are supposed to be funny, and the show could also get more serious and like really explore some real issues pretty effectively. And from a filmmaking perspective, it is very ambitious, and most of those ambitions pay off. Like, a compliment I could give Lil Dicky is I think he really does care about the medium of film. And he's also shown a great talent in picking the right collaborators. Like, I'm a filmmaker myself, and looking at the people he chooses to work with, the directors on this show, he makes some really bold choices. So there really is a lot to like about the show, but the strange thing that happens in it, which kind of intertwines with the rest of his career, is the first season is about him as a nobody who gets a viral hit and is struggling to become a professional rapper. So very based on his own come up, and also feeding into the same hubris as I had a joke song go viral, but I want to do this thing for real. And it's a really interesting look in how the music industry might work, even though it's probably very fictionalized. A TV show exploring the grind of an up-and-coming artist, and one that's not a cookie-cutter artist, but has a very weird place in the industry. It was fun to watch. But then the second season takes a big turn, where as soon as the second season starts, he's not an up-and-coming artist anymore. He's now someone that's signed to a big label and is working on his big debut album. And the whole second season is about how he has writer's block and can't come up with an album that he feels like showcases his true potential as an artist, which is probably very true to his real life given how little music we've gotten at this point. Because again, I want to reiterate, we have waited 8.5 years between his first album and his second album, okay? We've been waiting only 7 years for Frank Ocean. Actually, Frank Ocean has released more singles in the interim than Lil Dicky. But the dynamic of the show has changed. He's now an artist that is making making big moves, gearing up for the release of the album Penith, which is essentially the same album that he just released in real life. And the really weird and kind of interesting part of the show that I think gives us a glance into Lil Dicky's psyche is toward the end of season 2, it gets to the point where the character Lil Dicky in the TV show has eclipsed the real Lil Dicky in terms of career success. The last episode of season 2 has him doing a big TV performance. I can't remember if it's supposed to be the Grammys or if it's just like an award show or something, but Lil Dicky in real life has not done a TV performance to that big of a scale. In season 3, there's Lil Dicky hysteria that has never existed in real life, even at the height of professional rapper. And there's an entire episode about how Lil Dicky goes to the Met Gala. And in real life, Lil Dicky has not attended the freaking Met Gala. And so this is what is ultimately so weird, is that this guy came onto the scene insisting that he was going to change the rap game. That's what his entire debut album was about. He didn't succeed. He released an EP that got no attention. He put out 2 singles, which barely had any artistic merit to them at all. And so what does he do? He creates an entire fictional world that is just like our real world. The only difference is Lil Dicky is popular in that world. And again, I'm saying this as a fan of the show by and large, but it feels like he's trying to dupe us all. Like we're living in his fantasy world where he is the most talented, most influential rapper, and it's not real. And I can at least buy into a show being fictional, but it started to bother me when this album Penith came out. He has basically dropped all of the songs he's made on the TV show over the course of 3 seasons onto a streaming album, and listening to it kind of stands out how I don't even know how to say it. Just how little his musical output in the past 8.5 years has actually lived up to the potential that he insisted he had. So of course it wouldn't be completely fair to judge Penith on the merits of a traditional album because it is a soundtrack. A lot of these songs were made for specific points in the TV show. Like the big standout is Ali's song. Ali's song is like a legit beautiful moment in the show that carries a lot of emotional weight, but if you're listening to it just as a song with no context, it is kind of trash. And we kind of understand that in the show. But other songs on here are supposed to be legitimate like big hits in the universe of the show. Now, if you guys are subscribed to this channel, you know I have made videos about music that exists in the world of movies. I made a whole tier list where I tried to determine if songs were legitimately good or only good in the universe of their story. I also did the same thing for fictional boy bands, so I got some experience in this, and listening to this album, I no longer buy that those songs would have generated the hype that Lil Dicky had in his TV show universe. Because again, I stress, as a fan of the show, listening to the album Penith front to back, it was a hard listen. Oh my God, I don't want to do it again. And again, it almost feels violating. Like I feel duped because the show almost tricks you. Like the song I'm Drunk was supposed to be a hit in the show, and there's a scene where they're in a bar. You get shots of people cheering and taking shots and having a good time, and you're almost convinced that this song is a good party anthem. But then you listen to the full song I'm Drunk, and it's insufferable. Like I cannot imagine for the life of me a scenario where a group of real people are getting together and they want to turn up, and one of them is like, hey, let's turn on that Lil Dicky song where he goes, I'm drunk, I'm really, really drunk. It's not happening. And this moment did stand out to me in the show. The moment where he's having his big TV performance that may or may not be the Grammys. And it's one of my favorite episodes. It's directed by a really great director. And the song he's performing is about how he doesn't eat fruits and vegetables. It is this gigantic, dramatic production, and the song at the center of it. There's no way any TV award show or anything is gonna have a performance for a song that is that meaningless. The meaninglessness of the song itself isn't even that funny. In one of people's favorite songs, I even have to admit, I'm not that big of a fan of, but Mr. McAdams is just an entire song about how Lil Dicky likes Rachel McAdams, which we all do. Like, if the fate of the universe was at stake and to save the world, I had to date Rachel McAdams, I would take one for the team. I would volunteer as tribute. But I don't think simping over Rachel McAdams really makes for a great listening experience. Maybe if it was written better, it could actually be funny. He, again, has kind of lost the ability to do punchlines that he once had. The only redeeming quality of this song is at least it's not Chris Brown he's simping over. And so this is what Lil Dicky's career has become. His whole career. And what's off-putting is on this album, Lil Dicky is still trying to push the narrative that he's a boundary-pushing artist, that he is someone with enough rap skill to be taken seriously and somebody that is going to change the game. And that is a key word. He keeps on saying he is going to change the game, but he's not actually doing it. The best you could give him is maybe he's made the best TV show about a rapper. Of course there's Atlanta, and Atlanta's better, but Atlanta isn't as concerned with being solely about the music industry the way Dave is, so maybe he's made the best TV show about a rapper. Not that there are that many, but these illusions of grandeur that he has just hasn't come into fruition. So I think it's time, 8.5 years later, to admit that the status quo shifting, genre defining music that Lil Dicky claims he can make, all these songs he's talked about that he says are going to change the game, we just have to admit don't exist. Because if they existed, he would have released them and he would have changed the game. And instead, he's waited 8 years and only dropped songs he made for a TV show, not even a focused body of work. And if he would just let that go and not try to claim that he's the greatest artist of all time and just stay concentrated on making fun music, I wouldn't fault him for anything. But that's not what he's doing. He released a short film for the song Haha and I Love Myself, which the whole narrative behind it is he is playing a clown that is walking into a big music industry meeting and they want him to follow certain rules to be a successful mainstream artist. But Lil Dicky, he's just above all that. He's on a whole nother level and he's gonna cause chaos like the Heath Ledger Joker and steal the music industry's plans and stick it to the man. And the music video from a technical aspect is incredible. Again, pointing to Lil Dicky's just extreme talent of finding the right collaborators. It is a visually stunning music video, but for a video that's supposed to showcase your artistic prowess and originality, there's nothing more derivative that a white man could do than parody the fucking Heath Ledger Joker. Like shit. The gall to insist that you're a boundary-pushing artist when you're a white man cosplayed as the fucking Joker. And this is where I will sum everything up. In this music video, it's about how he's just so different and misunderstood, but he has game-changing music. It's the same thing he's been doing his whole career, about how people just need to give him a chance, give him a shot. What I think he's missing is that he, by all accounts, has been given that shot. He's been given the platform. Hip hop has decided to hear him out. He's had a massive album. He's had massive features. He's had a big TV show, which a TV show is one of the hardest things to get in the entertainment industry. He has gotten everything he set out to do. He no longer has to strive and work for the platform. He has the platform. And what has he chosen to do with it? At least on the TV side, with the help of talented writers and directors, he has made some good art, even though now that I think about it, maybe some of the best episodes of Dave were focused on the side characters, but on the music side, with this massive platform he's been begging us for the whole time, what does he do? He makes songs about how Rachel McAdams is hot, about how he doesn't eat fruits and vegetables, and about how his fucking dick sucks. And I don't think there's a disconnect where he doesn't understand that to be taken seriously, he has to make more serious music. I think the serious music he claims he could make just doesn't exist. He just can't do it. The perfect encapsulation of that is the song Jail, Part 1. For those of you that don't have the full context of the show, the 8-minute and 44-second song that exists on streaming is not the full song. It is a song about Lil Dicky exposing himself at a show to minors. He gets arrested. Throughout the tale of him going to jail, that rhymed unintentionally, he pretty much utilizes every racial stereotype possible, and the whole song just has a real icky feeling to it. Now, the episode opens with this almost 10-minute long music video, and then it cuts to Lil Dicky in a meeting with his label, and the label is as disgusted with the song as we are. The label is like, what the hell is this song? This is terrible. We cannot put this out. But Lil Dicky insists that the song is actually a work of genius, and if you just listen to the entire 15-minute song, you'll get it. But the label people, they don't want to do it. They don't understand, and they do not want to continue listening to this song. And the running joke in the rest of the episode is that the song magically gets so much better when you listen to the full 15-minute version. Characters have lines where it's like, wow, I didn't see where that song was going, but it really said a whole lot about the prison industrial complex, and wow, I can't believe you pulled that off, Lil Dicky. Like, damn, if people would listen to the whole song, it would change the world. This is a work of genius. And it's legitimately a funny joke in the TV show, but looking back on Lil Dicky's whole career, this is actually a perfect metaphor for his career, because the only music we get is half-baked comedy that isn't all that funny, but it's attached with the hubris that there's genius coming. If you'll just keep listening to this bullshit that I'm putting out, eventually the genius is going to come. But the reality is the genius does not exist. The other half of this song that mythically makes the whole story better does not exist and will never exist. And that is the punchline. The punchline is on you for ever believing it existed. So yeah, I know I got heated, but I promise, even with all this, I am not a Lil Dicky hater. I want to see this guy succeed. I just think for Lil Dicky to fully realize himself as an artist, there's a certain amount of pride that he just has to let go of. And I don't want to diagnose anyone I don't know personally, but I think it's worth pointing out that making grandiose promises of great things to come and then not following through on the execution is a textbook symptom of narcissism. And art and narcissism have a weird push and pull, because making a living in the arts is so hard to do that you almost have to be a little delusionally narcissistic to even make it in the industry at all. But I think Lil Dicky is the prime example of how pure hubris could get in the way of art. Because while comedy is subjective and some people just don't find him funny, like, I've enjoyed a lot of Lil Dicky. What has soured his music to me is just the hubris of it all. And I think that's painted him in a corner, because where does his career go from here? Because the music isn't there. He's not gonna last as a musician if this is what he puts out. And while the TV show is successful, it's not going to last forever. And he's only played himself. He hasn't showed that he can play other characters or write people that aren't him. So as successful as he is now, it's gonna be interesting to see if he can maintain success long term. And if he's really gonna double down on rap music as being his primary thing. And he has said that he's going to put out a real album that's not just a soundtrack. And if he actually follows through with that, I think the best course of action might be for him to just let go of the ambition. Let go of having to be the best rapper and change the game. Like, ambition is great when you don't have a platform and need to become successful, but he is successful. He doesn't need that much of it anymore. If anything, he just needs to make an album where he's just having fun, where he lets go of all the pressure of having to be one of the GOATs and just focuses on making some banger music with some interesting production, some witty lyrics, and some funny lines. And he can do it because we've seen his radio freestyles and they're great. And ironically, I think if he lets go of the ambition and just tries to have fun, that might actually circle back around into him making some great music that's worth talking about and worth being in the echelon of hip hop as a whole. Can Lil Dicky actually do it? Only time will tell, but I love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I mentioned a few times that I'm a filmmaker, and if you want to check out some of my film stuff, I put my last short film, Troubled Date, in the description. It's a romantic comedy, heavy on the comedy with a slight thriller twist to it. So if that sounds interesting to you, that's in the description. I also host a screenwriting podcast with a writing partner of mine. We pitch feature films and short films. It's called Written by Podcast. A link to that is in the description too. You can follow me everywhere at Robert2_Isaac on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the new subscribers. This is one of the first videos I made since my cartoon rappers video blew up. So thank you guys so much for watching that and continuing to watch my stuff, and I'll see you next time.